Art takes different forms, and with how fast-paced life is, and our perception of what art is, and which specific location displays it, we tend to often disregard what's in plain sight in our everyday life. One movement that we did not necessarily perceive as but surrounds us is guerrilla art. Provocative, disruptive, and illegal. It's everywhere, in the UK from the 80s to this day. Always visible, does not pretend to be anything by its very purpose to stop and allow questions to colour our mind and answers to tag our nearest friend. But is it art? In an attempt to know more about it, we've walked the streets. I met with PizzaBoy to better know his inspiration, appreciate this movement, and the fine line between legality and illegality of the most available and free form of art. So thank you for your time. So we'll start off with your name. So where did the name PizzaBoy come from?
The name PizzaBoy was a kind of daft thing. Growing up, I had different names, painting graffiti and street art. Some okay ones, some not so good ones that just didn't really stick. And then PizzaBoy it was a whole thing of like never grown up going to be like a pizza delivery driver or something, like just have this side hustle all my life and just be making art, and kind of just stuck with this PizzaBoy thing. It just seemed kind of daft, but also it was a kind of like too long a name for a graffiti name, and I liked that. Instead of being like 4 or 5 letters, I liked it was like a little bit bigger. It made it more like a brand, and from that I felt like I didn't just have to paint street art or graffiti. I could make clothes, I could make magazines, I could do anything. It could just be like a whole creative outlet. It didn't have to be the one thing. So the Americana culture in my artwork has been like a amalgamation of like different things that I've been influenced by and grown up with. A lot of it's like nostalgia really from like the 90s into the 2000s of like especially movies and music that I've loved, which has been a massive part of it. But I've also always been into like skateboard brands, like punk and hardcore sort of culture, streetwear, so it all has like this sort of tie-in, and also like tattoo culture as well. So I've been able to kind of take a little bit of everything and kind of try and make it my own, but I like it to be that there's a bit of grit to it, but also when you see it there's that nostalgic sort of thing where you feel like you've maybe seen it before, or it just feels kind of comforting in some way. So guerrilla art can be so many things, because guerrilla art's been used for campaigns, for protests, for advertising, for people just to get their own artwork out there. It can mean so many different things, but for me, guerrilla art was just, I used to do paste-ups, wheat pasting, as well as painting, and I felt like advertising was kind of taking over the full city, like billboards and all the posters, and some of it's for cool stuff, some of it's for really boring stuff, but like you just get shown that whether you like it or not. So I was like, well, why can I not just put up what I want to do? So I think that's what guerrilla art is. It's just doing your own thing and putting it up for everyone to see, and kind of going against the sort of corporate world in a way, you could say.
Aye, some sort of rebellion if that's yeah.
I think there is an aspect of, if you are a graffiti artist or street artist, I would say now it's slightly different, because some of these like artists who have started in that have like obviously like your Banksys and your Shepherd Fairies Obeys and stuff like that have obviously like went like huge, and they sell just as much as like a fine artist who paints with oils or whatever that's like trained classically or something, whatever, like through an art school. But I do think there's still like a sort of imbalance of like it's not taken as, maybe not taken as seriously, but just not got the same respect level. I think you'll never have that as long as you paint illegally, and as long as you are like using certain mediums like spray paint and stencils. I don't agree with it, but I just think that's kind of how it is, and it's the same in music or any other sort of creative outlet. If you're doing something that's a little bit against the grain, usually you're not taken as seriously, or you've not got the same level of respect as someone who's like an auteur filmmaker or whoever it is, or a classically trained musician. But it doesn't mean you're not as good as them, it's just taste. I think that there'll always be that sort of disconnect there, but I think slowly but surely it's starting to, the gaps like kind of coming a little bit closer. I think there's like in graffiti, people who paint illegally is very much like you don't want to sell your work because it's not about doing it for selling the work, you're just doing it to like against the system or doing it for your own benefit or whatever, just your expression. Whereas if you're doing street art, then very much so it's like a selling point now. Like people paint huge murals, get paid to do it. So it's just like, it depends on the sort of route that you go down with it.
You know they're empty and they chant it once again. Turned in the banking, the attraction for themselves. And all the people choose wealth before their health.